What's up, Fight World? Had to do a post-fight video on this fight because this fight was so cerebral. People who are real fighters will know exactly what I'm talking about in this video. That fight, for the most part, was back and forth. They remind me of one of those fights between two guys who are relatively sober at the back of the club. Guys who are well trained in fighting, in mixed martial arts. Now, when you see a fight that is pretty much tit for tat in the beginning, you got to look for certain things like facial expressions. You got to start to study the fighters' minds. And you look at little things and how they deal with little things. What lost, or what I should say is what won the fight for Masvidal, was the jab. Look at the fight. Look at the fight. Cerrone had no answer for that jab. He tried to respond to it with his own jab, but it was not as effective. It was not as accurate. He fought intermittently. He had little short bursts of attack, but they were ineffective. When he got hit with that jab to the point where it was uncomfortable to him, the fight was over. You could tell in his facial expressions and how he responded to the jab. Go watch the fight. I only seen the fight once. I don't really need to see it again. I was watching it that close. He didn't even really start to backstep or backpedal until he got caught more than once with that jab and realized it was something of a problem, right? It was so cerebral. Masvidal, his calmness is what won him the fight. I always say this: the fighters who have the advantage are the ones who are relaxed, who are calm. And you could see he was just poised, walking them down, waiting for mistakes, waiting for the right openings, relying more on timing and accuracy. Especially once he saw that the guy was being bothered by that jab, he continued with the jab. It was an excellent performance. You should always utilize the jab first, whether it be in boxing or MMA. If you can get away with it, if you can pull it off in MMA, it will frustrate many fighters. It will hurt many fighters, right? You get hit with a jab square in the nose, you're going to see stars for a minute. And it can throw you off your game. That is exactly what happened to Cerrone. It frustrated him. He felt a sense of urgency. Just look at him. Look at his face. Look at how he reacts to being hit with that jab. It was the jab that set the tone in that fight. So while the main event was more explosive and depended more on skill, I thought the Cerrone Masvidal fight was equally enjoyable because of how much it was a mental game. It was as if Masvidal saw exactly when he broke Cerrone's will with a jab. Just kept with the basics, like, okay, I got him, stayed calm, and just picked his shots, walked him down, and capitalized on his mistakes. See, after you frustrate your opponent usually starts making mistakes because they start getting desperate. And when you're desperate, you're not thinking clearly, right? People who listening to this video who are real fighters know this. Even if you just grew up fighting like me, just been in a number of street fights, right? When you get desperate, you start to make mistakes. And at that point, if you do win, it's usually because you landed a lucky shot. It's not because you have been setting anything up, because your mind is so scrambled, you're not thinking in terms of setting traps for your opponents, right? It's usually the calm fighter who is relaxed, who has the advantage. You saw that with Bruce Leroy, a wild fighter. That is his problem, right? I saw another YouTuber bring up a good point that he should be better than what he is. Couldn't really figure out why he does not benefit completely from his skills. It is because he is all over the place. He is not calculated enough. He is not structured enough. You look at the great fighters, they are thinkers. They are cerebral. They are calculating their moves and their attacks. They are calm and relaxed. They're not bouncing around all over the place and depending on all this shucking and jiving and shit. Right? They're reading their opponents. So, beautiful performance. I really enjoyed the fights last night. Check out that fight. It is a good example of a cerebral fight, a mental fight, as well as a physical fight.